Say hello to the sorrow, and with a sigh and these tears that I cry, oh my friend, oh my friend, oh my friend. Say goodbye for the last time. You must say goodbye for the last time. And with a sigh and these tears that I cry, oh my friend, oh my friend, oh my friend, oh my friend. Say goodbye for the last time.
Commonly known as Pizza. I'd like to introduce you to our faculty today. My executive producer, Nicole, Berardi, Fratangelo, Ray-Stingray, Jenn Pro, and another commentator, Ralph Narciso, and my little granddaughter there, Gianna Berardi, and a special guest, my cousin Michael Marzigliano. By the way, Ralphie's my cousin also. Okay, so we'd like to get right into the show. Mikey, I know you have to leave early, so I want to get to your story. It's a really good story that, and it's a dangerous one. So get with it, Mike. Let the people know what you did. Okay?
Sure, Johnny. Well, before I get started, I just want to put this up and say how proud I am of you. The Last Goodbye, John Fratangelo. This is definitely worth reading. I think that every person who has ever experienced anything negative needs to read this book. God bless you, John.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. God bless you.
Look, every person probably on this screen at some point is exhibited some bad stuff in their life, a time in their life that was really really difficult. Maybe it was different, took you out of your comfort zone. For me, I was an undercover agent for many years. Unlike a lot of movies and TV shows you may see about it, it's not as glamorous as you think. I was able to do it in different venues. I did it here in the U.S., in different cities here in the U.S., and I also did it in South America. Now, when law enforcement tries to make cases at the higher levels, it's real difficult. So someone came up with the idea to have a very, very large undercover operation and they called it Operation Casablanca after the movie for some reason. And it went on for about 3.5 years, and it was very successful. The Secretary of the Treasury at the time of the end of the case, the takedown, said that this was the largest drug money laundering case in United States history, and it was. It still is. It didn't get a lot of play initially, but really picked up steam. But I want to tell you about my story because I'm just a Joe Blow guy.
No, you're not. You're a hero, Mike. Don't underestimate yourself.
Thank you. I'm a real humble guy. Was a special agent for many years. And what happened is they felt like in order to infiltrate these cartels, and let me be specific, cartels deal in drugs, but the thing they're really after is money. And on my side of the operation, I dealt with money. So drug cartels are powerless unless they can spend their money. The amount of money that they make, that they generate, is astronomical. It's literally in the tens of millions, hundreds of millions. So if you can't spend your money, it's useless to you, right? US government's always looking around for money that appears to be really shady or suspicious. And that's where we came in. Of course, you got to get introduced. So I was introduced by some people that were confidential informants. And let me tell you, some confidential informants, at least the ones we dealt with, they didn't come from St. Mary's or St. Patrick's. These were guys that were in the business before and got caught. And then half of them saw God, and the other half of them wanted to make money legitimately, where the government would pay them. So they're well embedded. The people that are the bad guys, yeah, they know them real well. So I get introduced to several members of the cartel, and at first you don't meet anybody real important. You sit down, you have a meeting. It's just like a business meeting. However, there's a few twists. They do try to test you out. They'll ask you questions, try to take you off guard. Sometimes you'll get discreetly frisked or patted down. Sometimes it's not so discreet.
Hey, Mike, I don't want to lose your trend with thought, but
yeah,
people, you had to learn Spanish, right?
Absolutely. I did some time in South America. I had some formal training. I had some assignments before in South America where I actually lived there, and total immersion will get you there. So when you're speaking a language every day and even ordering your food every day in Spanish, you get good at it. So I was totally fluent to the point where I read it, wrote it, spoke it, and later on in life I actually taught it. So yeah, I spoke Spanish. That's where we conducted all our meetings. It was in Spanish, 100%. I was not introduced as a Latin guy. I was introduced as an Italian guy with connections, which fit perfectly. You got to have a backstop story because these guys are going to check you out 9 ways to Sunday. So I had an undercover name, but I had an undercover name that could be verified. So I'm not going to say what that name was, but my name was backstopped. The meaning of backstopped is if anybody checks it, I check out. As a matter of fact, I even had a criminal record. I had a criminal record in Las Vegas for a gambling pinch. Okay, so I kind of sort of, I met the story. So when I first met with them, I stayed within my lines. I stayed within my personality and my backstop story. And I told him, hey, I'm a Vegas guy. I have the ability to move money. I have the ability to have the money picked up, and I have the ability to launder the money. And basically, they looked at me like, okay, and they don't trust you right away, but they agreed to meet again. And after that meeting, I noticed another guy was there, and we spoke openly. And he asked me straight out how many points, which is the points of interest, we would charge. And I told him, look, we'll charge you 2 points on the first $1 million. And after every $1 million above that, it's another half a point. Why was that important to him? For 2 reasons. One, you got to be competitive with the guys that are the legit money launderers out there. And the other thing is, you know what? They're looking for a price. So part of your story is they want to know that you be able to speak the lingo. And they ask you specific questions. Hey, what banks do you work with? How can we do this? And people think that cartels are this well-oiled machine, this business. And in some ways they are. But as I said, getting the money into the system where it can be washed or laundered is the riskiest part of the business. So basically what you're doing is you're meeting a bunch of guys on the street in different cities, New York, Miami, LA, Houston, and you'll meet these guys on the street, and these guys will have literally a suitcase of money, maybe 2, maybe a duffel bag. The God's honest truth. So it's a very, very, very delicate dance that you do with these guys, because these guys are all hinked up. They don't know you from Adam. They don't even know the guys who I spoke with at the meetings, because what they like to do is they like to compartmentalize every part of the organization. The reason for that is obvious. If these street guys who are transporting and handing off the money ever get pinched, if they get busted, they don't know anything. They just know the guy who knows the guy, whose dog's neighbor knows a guy. And basically, they're going to get something like, oh, yeah, well, Jose called me. Jose who? Jose, can you see? That's who called me. So it's very compartmentalized. So what would happen?
I got a question.
Go ahead.
How do you gain their trust? Like what are the things will they do for you to do for them to gain that type of trust?
Okay, I mean, trust in terms of being a bad guy, I think that's the most important thing, Ray. So what we did is the second meeting that we set it up in Las Vegas. Okay, and I had connections in Las Vegas with a few casinos and a few guys that were managers of men's adult clubs. Okay, which goes a long way with these guys. All right, so what we would do is we'd go to a restaurant, we'd have our own back room, we'd have waiters dedicated just to us. There would be absolutely no limitations on food, on alcohol. We would order bottles of Dom Perignon like it was going out of style. So we're showing them a great time. We would always pay the bill in flash cash. Okay, and so you're peeling off hundreds. You're tipping out the maitre d', you're tipping out the waiter, you're tipping out the doorman, you're tipping out the valet guy. This goes a long way in terms of credibility, Ray. They want credibility.
What would you say would be the average cost to the government for an operation like that you were involved in?
Well, I mean, the cost to the government was actually zero, and I'll explain to you why. Because our undercover, and I can tell you right now, our undercover operation was financed by the point money that we made for the money pickups. Okay, so we did so many money pickups, charging points of interest that we had to have a dedicated account. It had to be under strict rules, like a vacuum. But at least in the beginning, we could spend pretty liberally on that account. And let me give you an idea. We bought a fleet of undercover cars. We also leased 3 high-end cars. Okay, we released a Ferrari, we leased a Mercedes, and we leased a Cadillac SUV for bigger transportation. So, in answer to your question, Ray, a lot of this is show to begin with. So when you say, how do you gain their trust? It's a process. So that second meeting when they came to Las Vegas, as I said, we spared no expense at the meeting, at the dinner. I paid in cash. And let me tell you something, I got a stack of cash to take with me that was that big. Usually I try to take anywhere between $12,000 to $15,000 with me in cash. Okay, because today that's not worth that much money, but about 20 years ago or more, it was worth a lot of money. So I paid everything in cash, spared no expense, tipped out everybody, and then at the end, I had limousines waiting outside to take us to the adult club, the strip club. Over there, I knew one of the managers, so everything was set up for us. I got the guys, I brought them into the back room, got them the high-end dancers. Don't have to go into detail what happens there. They're getting their lap dances and whatnot. They're drinking, they're loosening up. And Ray, this is not all fun and games, because even though you're in that kind of an atmosphere and you're drinking yourself, I instructed to the waiter and the waitress to water down my drinks to the point where I was drinking almost like ginger ale or water for the most part.
Right, because people have to realize that this is a dangerous operation. Every second, every move, every thought, everything you say, everything you wear, if one thing's out of place, then you're in big trouble. Your life is in jeopardy.
I was just going to ask you that, Mike. So no, in other words, are you wired 100% of the time?
No.
Okay.
No. And I'll tell you, it's not that I wasn't wired, but there were times when I was wired in a discreet way. And I'll give you an example. So along these lines, okay, let me get back to the Vegas setting, and then John, I'm going to explain to you why many times I didn't go wired, or I went covertly wired. So when you're in this atmosphere, you're in the strip club, these guys are getting lap dances. My drinks are watered down or non-existent. Theirs aren't. And because of that, these guys open up to you. They say, wow, this guy's a legitimate bad guy. He's one of me. He pays cash. He's got connections. He gets limousines. He gets us girls. So what happens there is they loosen up to the point where not only do they give you information, but to answer your question, Ray, you gain their confidence. Not in that particular meeting, but in a meeting much later on at the same venue. This guy who was a killer for them. We treated him good. He was the last guy I put in the limousine. He was the end of my night. And before he got in the limousine, he invited me down to Chihuahuas, Mexico, and asked me to be godfather to his child. That's how close I got to this guy. Okay, so you want to talk about confidence. If you gain confidence to that degree, it's amazing. But anyway, John, when I went to a lot of these meetings, some of them we set up on our own. And, let me explain something. We would rent out entire hotel suites, double, triple suites. And what we would do is we would tell them, and they loved this story. I said, look, when we're going to talk business, I don't want to be in a restaurant. So we would have everything catered for them. We'd have booze, we'd have aperitifs, we'd have, all fruit, hot plates, all kinds of food. It would be a catered affair. And the excuse was, when we talk business, we want to be in privacy. And they loved it. Only problem was that entire suite was wired for sound and video. So that's how we collected evidence.
Right.
And once again, the same scenario. My drinks are watered down, okay, on purpose. Theirs are free flowing. They start eating, they start drinking, they start telling jokes, and all of a sudden, all the evidence you want, they start opening up about things. They start giving you leads on other organizations, other people they know, et cetera, places that they actually live, things that they do. It's amazing. And, sometimes you have fun with it. We knew where the cameras were. So sometimes I would intentionally look at the camera and go, wow, after they said something stupid or said something revealing. When I was out on the street, John, and I did do money pickups on the street in different cities in the US, when I was out on the street, I generally was not wired, but I had a pager. At the time, pagers were popular, which was a transmitter, and it actually worked as a pager. And that kind of setup, much later on, actually saved my life. What happens is that you get introduced from one organization to another because you're trusted. So you start to meet different organizations, and I'm not talking at the top now. I'm talking about different organizations on the street who give you money, because the cartel doesn't use one or two guys. They use many guys, and they use different cities. So one time in Los Angeles, specifically in this city called Whittier, I was having a meeting with a new street crew. I'd never met them before, a bunch of Mexican guys, and we were sitting down talking, and I was talking with them, and all of a sudden, two guys come in who I didn't recognize, but they knew, and came up behind me, put a gun to my head, and told me to come to the bathroom. And they dragged me to the bathroom. So when I was dragged to the bathroom, of course, I was stripped from my shirt, okay? This is part of the process sometimes for new organizations, although I didn't like it. But it's also a feeling out thing, because while they were doing this, I was cursing them out in Spanish in every bad word I knew, which actually I learned later, helped me out, because it added to the legitimacy of who I was. Anyway, they didn't find a wire on me, but I did have a pager on me. They took the pager and they saw that it worked. They didn't give it a second look. It was a transmitter. Now, in Old Whittier, where this restaurant was, they had the thickest cinder block and concrete walls. It's an old style city. And because of that, it kind of saved my life, because the pager wasn't transmitting out through the thick walls. And if it was, the cavalry would have come, and it would have been a shootout, and I might have lost my life. The one thing I failed to mention is when I was put up against the wall, when I was cursing at the guy, he forced his gun in my mouth. and it was the most, it was one of the more humiliating and emasculating things that ever happened to me in my life. You know, I've been shot, and I'll describe that in a little bit for you. But in terms of the mental impact that had, to this day, I still can taste that that chrome and that gunpowder in my mouth.
What at that point now, the gun's in your mouth, what are you thinking? Like, because you can't screw up. What were your thoughts?
Honestly, Ray, I thought it was 50-50 on whether I'd get shot or die. I really did. But, you know, they seemed to be pretty satisfied with me. And of course, they took the gun out of my mouth, and one of the other guys said, you know, told me in Spanish, hey, you're okay. You're okay. You're okay. You're with us. Don't worry about it.
Right,
And
but were you armed at that point?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that.
well,
Because
I
because you
was
got their trust.
I was armed, okay, because no self-respecting criminal wouldn't be. That didn't scare them. They just took it away, and they later gave it back to me. Ray, that didn't even scare them, because actually that lends to your credibility. You know, if you're a plumber and you got a wrench, nobody cares, right?
Right,
If you're a
right.
crook and you got a gun, same
Yeah.
difference. Okay,
Right.
so it does lend to the credibility. So, you know, I kind of pushed my way out of there cursing the whole way. This is after they put the gun in my mouth and said, you're okay with us. And funny thing is that many months later, this crew was arrested. And not arrested by me or by us. What we do is we try to build this wall between us so that there's no smell on us. And they were arrested by a task force in Los Angeles that did this stuff for us. And I remember getting a call that afternoon asking if I wanted to come out, because that very guy who put the gun in my mouth was in custody. And I said, look, I'd love to, but I can't. I just can't. The operation hadn't been closed down yet. This was a guy that kind of knew what I went through, and he was just trying to be a great guy. So anyway, span ahead over a few years, we would constantly pick up millions and millions of dollars over the course of this 3.5-year operation. It would involve me going to different U.S. cities, as I said, New York, Houston, Miami, Chicago. We did some in L.A., a few other places, but those were our main sources. And we would pick up millions at a time. It got to a point that some people would call us up and say, "Hey, I got $180,000." I said, "I'm sorry, we don't get out of bed for less than $250,000, $250,000. We just refused that business, and that lent to our credibility and our ability to launder large amounts. And what we would do is, we'd just to give you a little insight as to how it worked, is we would actually physically pick up the money. And sometimes it was under less than ideal circumstances. I remember one time I'm picking up in Queens, in New York City. It was dark and it was rainy, drizzly night, and you only make phone contact with these guys. He doesn't know you. You don't know him. You've never met him in your life. So he says, well, meet me over by the bodega on the corner. And I'm like, okay. So me and my partner, we meet him over there, and he described himself in Spanish as a guy who would be small, okay? El Chiquito, which means a small guy, right? This guy was about 6'4", 300 who I met. Okay, and that's to the degree that they will lie to you. They make you, but they don't want you to make them sometimes. So I met this guy, and after we do the dance, okay, where is it? We're here to pick it up. Jose, can you see, sent me. He says, okay, well, look, follow me to my car. It's parked down the street. So here you're going down this dark street, and I mean dark street, and it's raining, and it's just me and my partner, and the guy, unlocks the car with his clicker, and I go, well, where is it? He goes, it's in the back seat. And I go, okay, well, get it. He goes, open it up. So you open up the back seat. There's a suitcase. Take the suitcase in my hand, close the door. He looks at me. I said, you'll be hearing from us tomorrow. Turned around, just kept going, praying that this was not a rip, because this is the height of danger. When you make this exchange, this is the height of danger, because they're not the only crooks on the block. Queens, New York City is not a great place sometimes. In the middle of the night.
No.
So you're trudging up this street, me and my partner, and my partner's trying to get a hold of our backup team. And he goes, hey, did you guys get that? Did you see everything? And he goes, where are you guys? We lost you. So there I was. If anybody wanted to off us, if this guy wanted to off us, it was there for the taking. My backup team had lost me. Does this happen? Unfortunately, yeah, it does. Okay, I mean, you got to roll with the punches. You literally put your head in the lion's mouth.
So Mickey, excuse me. So when you said to him, you'll talk to him tomorrow, would that be about?
What I say is, I tell them, you'll be hearing from us tomorrow. What I meant by that is his organization will be hearing from us. What will happen is ultimately we'll take that money. It'll get counted. And normally what we do is we had a deal with certain banks. We even had a deal with the Fed, the federal treasury. We would bring a load of money into the federal treasury in New Jersey. And I'll tell you something, it takes an act of Congress just to get in that place. So, we had to be backstopped and ID'd several times. And what they do is they have these super counting machines where they will identify the exact count, any counterfeit bills, and give us an exact count. Okay. Now they tell us about what it is, but they don't know the exact count. So what will happen is I'll get on the phone with the money broker in Colombia, and I'll give him, okay, here's your exact count. I'll either get on the phone for him or I'll send him a fax. Here's your total. This is our percentage. This is what's going to come back to you. Let me know how you want it. And what will inevitably happen within the next 2 to 3 days is the money broker in Colombia will send me a text, and it'll have a list of companies, and it'll say, let's say we picked up 200,000 net to him. Okay, I need 60,000 to this company, 40,000 to this company, 30,000 to this company, and 70,000 to this company. Wow. Total is 200,000. And it would go to these companies, and there the money laundering process was complete.
Right. And then, I'm sorry. And then now the target of your investigation would also include these companies, right?
Well, it would include the owners of these companies, because most of the owners of these companies were members of the cartel.
Right. Right. So they were just set up as for money laundering purposes.
Right. Some of them were legitimate companies. One guy had an automobile parts company. He was thriving over there. A lot of these companies in South America, they don't necessarily have to be cash companies, because when we were wiring stuff over there, what we would do is we would include an invoice for him, and he would tell us the invoice. So he would what he would do is he would send us a skeleton of the invoice, and we
Yeah.
would fill it in. And the invoice would accompany the money transfer. Boom, and it's legitimized. Okay, that's
Wow.
the way it works.
Hmm.
Okay,
Mike.
so
Okay,
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike. Finish. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna
No, I
get.
just want to let, I know you, because you said you were pressed for time. Is it okay if you continue the story?
Yeah, I got about I got about 8 minutes or so.
Okay.
So 8 to 10 minutes. I just want to bring you up to date on what happened to me in New York City. Okay, so think of this process that I just described for you. Think of that going on 372 times. That's how many times it was done. So you get two things happen. You get good at it, you get trusted by them. But like anything else, and you guys will attest to this because I'm sure you guys are experts in your field or occupation or your profession. When you do things over and over and over again, what happens?
You get laxed.
You get a little complacent.
Yeah,
And what happens when you get complacent?
that's when things happen.
Yep.
You get sloppy. And
Right.
what happens when things get sloppy, Ray?
Get hurt.
Disaster.
That's when things happen, as you said.
That's when you got to change your underwear.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So I had a pick. I had been sent to New York City to do a number of pickups over the course of 3 days. I already did 4 of them over the course of those days. Again, when you're doing pickups in any city, you're fronting a lot of exposure in terms of eyes on the street, criminal eyes on the street. So I get a call. We're supposed to do a pickup at a McDonald's over on the very west side by near 34th Street and 11th Avenue in
Yeah,
New York City.
That's over by the what do you call it? The Intrepid and the what do you call it?
It's close to Jacob Javits.
Jacob Jarvis, right?
So, you know, we were there. There was a McDonald's there that I had met with. I met with a guy like maybe a day earlier, and this was another organization. And I met him at this McDonald's. Now, why did I meet him at this McDonald's? You know, sometimes you're thrust into a situation where the agency dictates where they want you to go, because that's where they set up logistically for surveillance. It's good. And once again, they get complacent and stupid because they use the same places. So I had met with a guy the day before, and you know, we were just shooting the breeze. We didn't even do a deal yet. And he goes, you know, I did you a favor to meet you here because I heard that you were a guy who was, you know, who could be trusted. Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. If I ever meet with you again, we're not meeting here because this place is hot. And now a normal guy, maybe if I was earlier in the job, I might have paid that some mind. But you know what? You get complacent. Sometimes red flares can go up, and it just don't register. So here I am the next day. We're doing a money pickup, and me and my partner are waiting outside there. And I'm like, where the hell is it? We got our car, and then we're waiting for them. And we're seeing all kinds of surveillance, the same cars going round and round. We're seeing foot surveillance where people are spying us. And I was telling Carlos, my partner, man, I don't like this. These guys, I don't know. I feel hinked up. And he goes, yeah, I know what you mean. He goes, you want to get out of here? I'm like, yeah, let's give it 10 more minutes. You're always thinking about mission, right? 10 more minutes. Don't worry about it. I can get the job done. I can do anything. I've done everything in the past. Why would this be any different? All of a sudden, some Colombian guy, short Colombian guy, comes up to us. makes contact with us and we start talking to him. And my partner, starts getting in his face. He goes, "Let me tell you something. I don't like what I see in here, and I don't like the fact that you didn't show up on time. We don't do business this way." And the guy's apologizing. But meanwhile, while he's apologizing, he's looking all around. And I'm like, later on, I'm like, wow, this really meant something. He was looking around at other people. Before you knew it, there were a bunch of people that came out of a van, and they were there with guns coming out. Now I had my backup team at that point. Was DEA at the time, and lucky that they were pretty close to the situation. So to make a long story short, they thought that we had lots of money on us because they had been spying us. They knew we were doing money pickups in New York. They were there to rip us. So what they wanted us to do is they wanted us to call the money broker in Colombia and put a code in his phone. When we put that code in his phone, that means we've picked up. Once we do that, we're accepting responsibility for the entire shipment. And what does that mean to that guy? It means he can rip us off. Now, it's not a clean cut. What he was gonna do is he was gonna take us to the river and shoot us and throw us in the river. However, I had a backup team, lucky for me, and when this big guy came at me asking where the money is, I told him in Spanish we don't have any, and he got more agitated, and I don't know what made me go, but I dropped down to the floor and rolled to get my gun, and he shot down. And when he shot down, he had got me on the belt line, and part of the bullet came out the back of my leg. The other part was lodged close to my back, close to my spine. It was a miracle of God that it didn't. So it became a firefight out there. Guns everywhere. I mean, everything in a street firefight is in slow motion. And I think, John, you could probably describe this because you were in many firefights in Vietnam. That's why I admire you. When bullet rounds are going past you, it's the slowest thing in the world. 30 seconds seems like 30 minutes. I just didn't know. I knew I had been hit. So me and my partner dove into our car, and we're on the ground literally on the ground of the car, the floor of the car, and they're shooting at the car, and the entire back window was entirely shot out. How we didn't get hit, I don't know. But I was already hit, and I remember my partner saying to me, "Mickey, okay?" And I said, "No, I've been hit."
He wasn't hit with all the fire?
He wasn't hit. He wasn't hit.
Wow, it's a miracle.
He wasn't hit. So we had the backup team kind of got them all under control. The guy who shot me, we had a great undercover car. One of the DEA agents was driving a New York City yellow cab, and he came up like a yellow cab. He screeched up right behind this guy, opened the window and shot him. And then my partner, Carlos, got off 2 shots, and that guy they took him to the hospital. He was DOA. The emotions that go through are amazing, because at this point you have adrenaline in you, and the scene is not quite secure. There was another guy that was running away, and they yelled my name. So I'm over here trying to hold my 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 back over here while it was bleeding, and in my left hand I'm holding the gun, and I go up to this guy and I tell him in Spanish to get on his knees. So I apprehended him. I had to run across the parking lot to do that.
And Mickey, when you apprehended him, did you identify yourself as an agent?
I identified myself as nobody.
Okay.
I just put the gun in his head.
Okay.
Again, I ran across the parking lot. I was taken to the hospital. The NYPD, who was our backup, closed down 34th Street, and the ambulance took me to the hospital, and I was checked in under John Doe. And when I was released, my medicine said John Doe. The amazing thing is that, again, I tell you that I ran across the parking lot to subdue this guy. I couldn't walk after that. It'll get to show you that adrenaline will make a man do anything. And John, I know you can relate to this, because when you're in the adrenaline of a firefight, you can do some crazy things. The next day, as I said, I couldn't walk until I got released from the hospital. It was rough for me to walk. I eventually did. I got through it. I guess
what time of the day was it?
This was the middle of the afternoon, August 6th.
Oh my God.
1997 at 3:30 p.m. in the afternoon.
That in itself is a miracle that no one, like innocent bystanders, got shot, because that's a busy area over there around that.
Super busy, and I'm proud to say that the advanced edition of the Daily News had Garth Brooks on it, but I threw him off the first page. So, yeah, it was on the front page of every. As a matter of fact, we had to do a lot of damage control with the newspapers. The newspapers did identify me as an agent, but they didn't identify, no pictures, nothing like that, no locations, no names, no hospitals, nothing. I'm going to leave you with this, and I'm going to go many years later. There's a good number of you guys. I know at least 2, maybe 3 of the guys that are here on the dais that had PTSD. I had PTSD for many, many years, still do. The emotional backlash of that stuff is not something that is really evident to you. To be honest with you, after I healed, I got back on the horse. I did more pickups. I did more meetings. I felt like the best thing for me to do was to get back on a job. But you lose a lot, okay? And you say, oh yeah, well, what did you lose? Okay, well, I had a lot of flash money, right, that I had to account for. When you hang out with criminals, you get some bad habits. That's all I'm going to say. And I was accountable for that money. So there's an old saying, tell me who you hang out with and I'll tell you who you are. My aunt used to tell me that when I was growing up. And you become one of them by design. But the thing is that you kind of lose a little bit of your personality. You lose a little bit of you lose a little bit of the things you were taught when you were growing up. Not completely, because I always had God in my life. As a matter of fact, and I don't have it right here with me, I used to carry a prayer book right in my back pocket. I was shot millimeters from that prayer book. I still have my blood on that prayer book. To this day, I'm convinced that might have saved me. I don't know. I'm waxing philosophical here, but I do believe in God. I'm here to tell you that, a lot of people, I got all these awards and stuff, asked to do a book, which I never did, asked to do a movie, which I never did. there's a lot of fallout. I lost my family.
See, that's something that you just brought out that people need to understand.
Right.
Is that heroes sacrifice so much they give it their all. Sometimes they lose their spouse, sometimes they lose their children because you can't tell them what's going on the job. you know People don't understand the type of jobs that people have, the risks that they take. It's nice to
Amen.
see a hero like you win.
Right.
Yeah. So I appreciate that, Ray. But like I said, there's great fallout from it. Unfortunately, John, I do got to get out of here.
Right.
But I hope I've given you guys a little bit of insight with my story. The moral of my story is, it may seem glamorous, but there's a lot of fallout, and it sucked, and it took me years, more than a decade to recover. So, like Ray said, you want to call me a hero. I'm a real humble guy. I'm just a Joe Blow right now. I believe in God. I'm looking for a greater purpose in life.
But something, a true hero or true heroes, you ask them this question, say, would you do it again?
No.
You say no?
No.
I think you would do it over again.
No, I wouldn't. I'll be honest with you. If I had to do it over again, and there's not even a hesitation, Ray, I lost my family. Okay, what's that worth to you? Never. Never do it again.
I totally agree. I totally agree with you. To the point of you lost your family, you can't put any price tag or anything on that. The only thing that you can put on this is that you saved many, many lives out there. Probably a lot of women, a lot of children, a lot of sex trafficking, drugs. So you are a hero, and you gave everything, and you sacrificed everything, and you should be thanked. Thank you.
The only I have to say something about that. It's just like all he did, all the drugs that they confiscated that saved many lives are being let in here 100 times more than it was.
Right.
Okay, that's the drawback. Just like when you go to combat and war, you lose all these lives,
Right.
and it was for nothing. Okay,
Right.
So people have to understand this prize on a guy's mind is what did I do for this and that now and it can't, and nothing came of it. They even got richer now.
Right. And he did it for his country. He did it for his government. And then the government turns around, and what did the government do? Just took all his hard work, his dedication, losing his family, getting PTSD, and said, you know what? He's just another guy. That's just like that. Just waved them off and said, this is what we're doing because this is our political gain. This is what we want. This is our agenda today. And what was done in the past by Mickey and countless others means nothing to them. And I'm sorry, Mickey.
That's the sad part.
You know what, Mickey? You mean to me. I thank God there's people like you. What you did, I appreciate it. And I want you to know that there's many, many people out there like John, Ray, all of us here. We appreciate what you did. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Johnny, I got to go.
All right, Mike. Love you.
Thank you so much. I love you
Mike,
guys.
you look great. God bless you.
Thank you, Ray. I'd
Thank
like
you
to
for
get
coming
together with
on.
you guys and have some food and wine one day.
Let's do it. Bring your mama up. Send
All right.
off the mama, right?
I will.
Okay.
Bye-bye, guys.
I love you.
Bye, Mickey.
Take care. Well, guys, what do you think of Mikey's story, huh? Something
Great.
else, right?
Great. Oh yeah. Second time I've heard it. And it doesn't get any easier to listen to what he went through on that street. You know,
It's tough.
could have lost his
Tough.
life.
And now it's getting worse. Now with the defunding of the police and all that stuff, not backing the police. It's
Oh yeah,
a horror,
and
it's a horror show.
and yeah, and the police put their life out there on the line, and if they do one thing wrong, forget it. They're cast aside as the worst person on earth.
Right. Right.
I I think that the federal government is to blame for a lot of things, you know, state, federal, you know, city, you know, we do what we have to do as a job. You don't think about what the consequences are going to be until the end of the day. Or, you know, you just do what you have to do. And it's really sad to think that, you know, a soldier or a cop or a fireman or anybody who takes that risk, that's involved in that situation, should be put to the side and say, you know what, he'll get over it.
Yeah.
That's
That's so
what's
sad.
sad.
Right?
That's
Terrible.
what's sad
What
about
about what about you, Jen? What'd you think, baby?
I found it to be completely, well, again, an eye-opening story when, just like yours in your book, when you hear from the person directly what they went through and the things that you don't know about, the things you would have no idea, you weren't there, you didn't experience it, the behind the scenes things are really, I mean, it's true. There's a lot of things to carry with you for the rest of your life that mentally can,
You know,
well,
it's
what, what
because people
happens with stress.
people do not know what
pizza.
a policeman, a fireman, or a combat veteran goes through unless they've been it. It's so sad until
John,
it hits home. Then they start thinking
John,
about huh?
it's incredible, John, and people want to judge you in the public forum, in the public court. Any one of these police-related incidents we've seen in the past year, the guy's guilty. He did this, he did that. They don't even know that what happened for real with the facts, but they want to judge him, they want to convict him, and they want to hang him. And that's what's wrong with our society. Walk a mile in my shoes before you accuse.
Right.
I have two things to say. The first thing I want to say is that it's easy to be a Monday quarterback,
Yeah.
you know, but to actually be in that situation, make that decision, and just move and move quick takes a lot of guts,
Right.
you know. And I also want to say for our listeners that don't know New York, that area. It's just unbelievable the amount of people that didn't get shot. I mean, you know, I'm sitting thinking about this. At that time, you got traffic, you got people walking to their buildings, you got people coming in and out of McDonald's for lunch. You got people in that's a tremendous parking lot. So you have people coming in and out of cars. People have to understand the risks and the factors here. Tremendous.
Right. And not only that, Ray, that was in 1997, right? So let's say this happened in 2022 after what we've seen in the past year or two. The first person they'd be looking at is, why did those agents fire their gun? Why?
Right.
You know, and especially if somebody had gotten hit, a civilian. Why didn't they do something differently? And once again, you go back to, wait a minute, were you there? Do you know what it's like to sit there with a 6'3", 300-pound guy with guns wanting to kill you, and you know, your only defense is your weapon, which you can't get to. He had to roll on the ground to get to it. All these particulars, the common man does not understand, and that's problem one in our society. We don't know what it's like to be in that situation, but yet, like you said, Monday morning quarterback, judge, jury, and executioner right away, and it's killing us. It's killing us as a society.
For sure. Hey, little one. What about? Yeah, Ray. I'm sorry.
You know what else is that the average people with common sense, right, won't speak up. You know,
Right.
They'll just say, yeah, you know, but the reality is that, you know, take a look at that situation there, you know, and so yeah, the good guy don't win all the time, you know? So he does what's right, which he did what was right, but yet he has to pay the consequences in today's society.
And John, can I ask you a question? Because I know we're talking about your book, which I love, The Last Goodbye. I always said an excellent book. You relate so many times in their stories that, of your, actions and things you've done in Vietnam. But were you ever involved in a situation similar to what I was trying to explain? Were you ever asked by your superiors to not, there's civilians or there's babies or whatever, not to stand down, don't fire your weapon in such and such a situation? You know what I'm getting at?
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Well, one of the stories in the book is that when one morning we were out in the boonies, and I wanted to mail a letter, and it's in the jungle, okay, and there's a mail drop. And on the way to the mail the letter, I heard a pop like a gunshot went off, and I thought nothing of it because a lot of times this was a line company, this Bravo company over there where I just passed through, and they would throw a can or a bottle in a fire, and it would sound like a gunshot pop, right? So I thought nothing of it. So I went on my way to continue to mail the letter, and then on my way back there was a commotion. I seen a chopper up above like a dust off, and a battalion medic who was a regular doctor. His name was Howard Christel, who was a captain, was doing trying to bring this guy back to life. He was doing what do you call it, artificial resuscitation. And the guy died. So what had happened was that we were ready to move out, and we were going to lead them out and being recon. And then what happened? Being that we were getting ready to move, his friend was checking his weapon out, and it was a discharge, and he shot the guy in the neck, and he ended up dying. So then, as we're ready to move out, and like I said, we're first, and this order come down from top brass someplace in Washington that we were supposed to move out with unloaded weapons. Wow. So we all looked at each other and laughed and said, is there got to be some kind of bureaucratic moron that doesn't know the first thing about what it is to be in a jungle or in a combat situation? Mm-hmm. You're not going to be walking in, and especially when you're leading out the battalion with an unloaded weapon, especially a machine gun, which I had, which takes a little more time than a regular, to lift the cover plate, put the bullets in, and all this stuff, Mm-hmm. But that's one of the
what
ridiculous
would be
things.
the point of that? Why would they want you to travel with unloaded weapons?
Because they saw it was an accidental death, and they figured, well, it's just people that fight a war behind a desk, in Washington, that don't know, they're not there. Just like we're trying to bring out, they're not in the situation. Right. There was no way we were going to go with unloaded weapons,
Well, you know what, John? I think that when you think about this, it's again, it's the politics. Right. You're doing what's right, but yet you're doing what's wrong because it's not politically correct. So I'm not gonna say, John, you did a great job. I'm gonna say, John, look what you caused.
There's a couple of times that I shot without being, we're supposed to not shoot until we were given permission to shoot. But that didn't go with me at all. No. There was a couple of times in the book that I shot without anybody telling me to shoot. I just spontaneously shot when I knew figured I had to shoot. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I didn't care. Like I said in the book, they could send me home if they didn't like it.
Right. Well, you did something wrong. Send me home. That's what I want.
That's it. How about little Gianna? Did you want to ask Papa something?
Yes.
What?
How did you write your book?
How did I write it?
Yes.
Well, through memory, when I first got out 52 years ago, I started writing it. And then I left it on the side for all these years until I started writing it again, and people wanted me to finish it, so I finished it.
And I'm happy you finished it because it's a really good book.
Thank you, my baby. Thank you. I'm happy I finished it too.
John, I know war is hell, but what was one of the most rewarding parts of Vietnam?
Hmm.
If you were to say to someone out there, what was the most rewarding part?
I think the most rewarding part for me was the pride to serve with these guys. Okay, there's nothing like it. Okay, whatever the outcome of the war was, we still served each other, to help each other, to stand up for each other, to die if we had to for each other.
Mm.
That's the most revealing part. How close
The
men become to
camaraderie.
each other. You know what I mean? Right, Rob.
Mhm.
Good work. Right.
Yeah, yeah. And it's lifelong.
Yes, yes. And we see each other on the streets, even if you even if they weren't with you at the time. No matter what veteran you meet, it's an
Mhm.
instant bond. When you meet a Vietnam veteran, it's a double instant bond. You know,
Mhm.
because they know, just like we're saying, they know what we went through.
Right.
Fighting in the jungle was no
That
biggie.
real world experience that you so, and I don't want to use big words, but eloquently have put in your book is that's that's when I called you that time. I said, John, here's my number, you gotta call me, because it was in my heart. I was like, you just brought the feeling of what it's like, and then I'm still not 100% because I wasn't there. You are. You're explaining it to us, and you're writing it in your book, and you're telling us that feeling. I'm experiencing it while I read your book.
Right.
And that's the best thing about your book. I put it in my Amazon review. I tell everyone that listens what it's like to read this book, because it brings you right there. I don't know how else to say it. It brings that feeling that you had, the camaraderie, the fear, the adrenaline rush, like Nikki had said. Everything is there in your book, The Last Goodbye.
Yeah, that's what I try to write about. I try to write like, instead of saying that, oh, I just shot that guy, or I just shot at this, or I just shot at that.
Right.
I try to step by step tell every point that happens before that initial shooting or whatever the incident may be. You know, I
Yes,
try
the
to
detail. The
paint the picture
detail was
so people can
amazing.
be there. You know, it's not like go right to the point and say, oh, we just went on recon and we just shot up the whole whatever. You know, and
Right.
no. I wanted the people to go step by step and realize what we were thinking, what we felt. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
all the conditions. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Jen said, the detail that you put in the book, and things that I never even knew. The mine, the Macklemore was called. That mine that the mine that
Oh, the Claymore mine.
Claymore.
Yeah.
And I was like,
And the three
what the
different
heck
ways
is it?
to throw a grenade. I found that to be interesting. The three different ways that you threw the grenades.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Everything in the book. Like I just said to Nikki yesterday, I said, when you read this book, you truly feel like you're there. You truly feel like you're experiencing it. The
Mhm.
detail I cannot say enough about.
Mhm.
You just feel like you're like Ralph said, you're experiencing it. Like you're actually there with you. It's amazing, and you become friends with all your people in the
Yeah.
book, because you're in the camaraderie, like you mentioned. I found that to be so amazing, how friendly everybody was and how you guys really had each other's backs. That was amazing. Also sad at some points, but it was so well written. I cannot say enough about the book.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted people to know what you know. There's a lot of people don't know the first thing about the military.
Mhm.
That's why I explained a lot of things in basic training, AIT, because we didn't know anything about it either when we first went in there. We were just learning. So that's why if people were never in the military, I wanted them to learn about the military. You know,
Right.
the way we trained and how they trained us and all those kind of stuff.
All the little things that a lot of people in other books and even movies don't mention, don't show.
Right.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's really just hits you like that, you know.
John, for somebody to read your book, right? What do you want them to get out of that book? Like, what would make you feel good that they get out of that book?
I would like them to appreciate what the combat veteran goes through, both men and women. That's what I want them to get out of the book,
Mhm.
so they can look up to them and give them the respect that they so deserved,
Mhm.
still deserve.
The when you explained when you were coming in on the airplane, right? And you come in and you're expected to jump out of the plane. They're
Oh
gonna
yeah,
hand you weapons,
yeah,
and then it's just like you landed in a regular airport.
right.
But the wildest thing was the people leaving, the soldiers who were leaving. The way you describe that, and I'm not going to get into it because I want people to read your book. But the way you describe that, it gives me chills even thinking about it now. That you were going in because I did not serve anywhere, but I was in the last lottery back in 1971 for the draft, and after that there was the peace talk, so they just abandoned the whole thing. So I got lucky, but just being in that lottery scared the what out of me,
Right.
because thinking of where you could end up, and you were there, and that's the feeling that you get, and especially someone who's you're older than me, but I was in that era, and I felt that. I said, damn, that could have been me, you know, and that's what you get out of your book. You get that. I got to keep repeating myself. You get these feelings that just hit you right in the heart.
Thank
It's
you.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
I think when I read your book, right, the chills, the chills of the situations, because even in a book, or you could tell, your stories 100 times, right? You still can't get that, like, that actual, feeling of what you went through. It's just chilling in your bones, like, oh my God, like, and he went back for more, like, like,
Right.
you weren't thinking about, oh, I just want to go home. You were thinking about who I'm going to save, and not thinking about what the consequences were going to be.
Mhm.
Well, that's the way it was. I mean, not only me. I mean, the other guys, the same thing. They were just we just had our backs. We were a team. What they call it. We were a team, and that was it. You don't break up a team. You don't let one. You don't leave one behind. You do not leave them for nothing, no matter what the what the consequences. First of all, I wasn't even thinking about something would happen to me. You know what I mean? I just did what almost all of us would do. Just do what we had to do to help our friends.
Right.
That's it, man. That's all we think about. We were all like that. Everybody was like that.
Hey, John, do you think that pride could be brought back in this country? Do you think that, like, you know we've gone so far left lately? Do you think that it could come back again, where someone could say, I'm really proud to be an American. I would die for this country.
Oh, I don't see why not. I mean, you got a lot of patriots in this country. You got more patriots in this country than you don't than not.
Right.
Sooner or later, it's going to come to a head. And people are going to realize, hey, look, what we had was the greatest thing that any country could ever have, and we can't let it go by the wayside anymore. Enough is enough now.
Right.
I mean, I'm hoping that it doesn't come down to what can I say this. God taking out His wrath on what's going on right now, because He's not. I can tell you right now, He's not happy, and these people do not realize what they're setting a path that's going to end in a very bad situation, very bad.
It's really horrendous what's going on. You know, it just in general, like, you look around and you look at the younger generation, and you pray to God that, that they'll come through like you did. And very few would come through like you did. And what people need to understand and realize was you were just a kid.
Yeah, but
You
Ray,
know?
we were, even as kids, we were brought up with values. We
Right.
were brought up to respect our fellow man. You know what I mean?
Right.
When I was a kid, I would hold the door for anybody. You know what I mean?
Right.
I would never spit at somebody or curse at them, or
Right.
the way these kids are today, they have no respect,
Not just kids, it's people
no
too.
discipline.
Where
They're
my
not
wife works, she greets every person that comes in where she works, and she never gets hardly. Like say, maybe 80% of the people don't return the thank you, don't return the good morning, how you feeling. They don't return it. They have no like you said, they were either they weren't brought up that way, or they've just been in a society that's closed all those doors.
They become robotic, very cold.
Right.
I mean, most of the time you're texting people. You don't hear their voice. You don't hear their
Right. Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah.
A lot of times you text somebody and they'll take it the wrong way when you don't really mean it that way. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? They'll say, What did you say? What did you text me? No
Yeah.
way. But if you spoke to them, they wouldn't get that. They would get it completely. You know?
It's true.
Well,
I want to ask. I'm sorry, Ray.
no, I wanted to make a comment. I want to bring back what I've been doing since 9/11, and I want everyone to do this. Whenever you see an officer, or you see a soldier or a fireman, take that moment and just go over and say thank you. Shake their hand. Say, you know what? I know, I could never repay you for what you do, but thank you for doing what you do to make my life a better place on this planet.
Right. That would make them feel so good.
There's a lot of people that do that. There's a lot of people that are still respectful that way. It's just that some people are unsure of what the reaction is going to be when they say that, and they may not want to approach that person and just shake your hand or buy him a cup of coffee or something like that. I'll be in the line when I used to drink coffee at Dunkin' Donuts. If there's two police officers there, it's like, I got it. I'm buying for them.
Right.
And that's it.
That was good, Ralph. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I got disciplined one time for taking a cup of coffee from somebody. It's you can't do that. It's like
Right.
the guy bought me a cup of coffee. No, it's again. You guys are right. You do something nice for somebody, and then that person who's good has to pay the consequence.
You were NYPD, right?
No, I worked for all the mayors, an agency that worked for the mayors, and we worked. It was a special unit, but the point is that if you take a cup of coffee, that's like taking a gratuity from somebody.
Yeah. Well,
So
you're out there with the mayor's entourage too, so you're high profile.
right, but at the same token, Department of Investigation would say, "Hey, why are you taking a cup of coffee from this person? What's going on? Who you involved with or whatever." And so it's okay if so I said one day, if I give you a newspaper and you take that newspaper, does that make that right or does that make it wrong? It's just that I'm giving you a newspaper, you know? And so, again, the good guys don't always win.
Right.
Right.
It's unfortunate.
What do you think, Nikki? How's our time? It's ready to sound off or what?
We're coming up on an hour and 10 minutes.
Oh, I think that's long enough.
John,
Yeah.
weren't you were going to mention the citation or award that
Well,
or did you want to?
yeah. Well, maybe next time. I'll
Okay.
know more. Maybe I'll know more by then. you know?
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that up. Appreciate that. Yeah. But anyway, so to our listeners out there, we want to really thank you for all being with us tonight. This is our first show. Hopefully it takes a blast off like into space. So we want to get it going, and we're going to do it every 2 weeks for now to start off. So we'll be following not this next Friday, but the Friday after will be our next show, and hopefully we'll have great guests and with interesting stories. And I really want to thank our cast here. Okay, Jen, Ralphie, my little baby Gianna, Ray-Stingray, and my daughter Nikki. Okay, God bless everybody, and thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody,
Thanks,
for
everybody.
coming out.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Hope
And
you
have
all enjoyed our new
great
show.
4th of July, because we won't be here till the week after. All right. God bless.
God bless.
Say goodbye for the last time. Say goodbye for the last time. And with a sigh and these tears that I cry, oh my friend, oh my friend, oh my friend. Say hello to the sorrow. Say hello to the sorrow. And with a sigh and these tears that I cry, oh my friend, oh my friend.